Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready to start our last two full group sessions, and these two are a little bit different. They are not like exactly presentations. So our first one is going to be career panel, taking the next step in your library career. I have a few speakers here. Let me see. If you are someone who is going to speak, what does it show you? Hopefully it's making you a speaker. Just a second. Okay, I'm looking for Eden, Lauren, Sarah, and Dawn. There's Lauren. Hi, Lauren. I saw you briefly. Hi.
Hi. I popped up when I turned my mic on.
There's Eden, Sarah, Belle, and Dawn. Are you guys there? Hi, Eden. Look. Okay, I have to spill the tea that Eden replaced me at my old library. When I left, Eden took my place. So I'm like getting to see my home base there. And then I'm looking for Dawn. Is Dawn Brunchen here?
She says she doesn't have a way to turn on her camera.
That's okay, Dawn. Can you unmute yourself and you can chat with us? Okay, so what I thought I would do for this panel is just give each of you a few minutes to talk about my cube mate is walking around behind me. It's not like I have sprouted a person outside the top of my head there. So give you a few minutes to talk about your career now and how you got to this place. And we'll do about 5 minutes per person, and then we'll see if there's any questions. So we'll start with Sarah. You want to go first?
Hi, I am Sarah Bell. So my career has been, I'm currently the district media specialist for Dunlap, which is located just outside of Peoria. So I work with 8 different school buildings, pre-K through 12th grade. And I have paraprofessionals that are located in each one of those buildings on different schedules. And so then I oversee ordering, collection development, all of those things, but I do that in conjunction with my paraprofessionals at each building. My path to this current position was that when I was in undergrad, I was an undergrad to become a middle school teacher. So I have a K-9 teaching certificate. And then when I graduated, I got sick and I had to have a surgery, which turned out to be extremely minor. No big deal. But at that time, there was not a teaching shortage. And so no one was going to hire me knowing I needed the first 2 weeks of school off. So instead, I took a job that just looked really fun. And that was as a children's librarian in a nearby library district. And it was totally fun. It was super fun. It was so awesome. I ended up staying in various positions in public children's librarianship for about 17 years. And then I didn't want to be a director. I liked the job I had. I preferred to work with students and families. So instead of moving my career that way, I turned around and became a school librarian. So this is my 4th year as a school librarian.
All right. Would you like to go and tell us a little bit about your path?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it cut out perfectly right as you said the name. So before I became a school librarian, I'd gone back to school, got my MLIS, and I was working at a university library. And my daughter decided to be like a welcome to the new job surprise. And I started looking for options since I wouldn't be able to get any FMLA off by the time she was due. And it was right about that time that there was a huge discussion on like book banning and things like that. And I was like, I want to go cause trouble in schools one day and like keep books from being banned. Like, honestly, I can never tell my principal when he asks me for my why that is why to be obnoxious on purpose. And at that, it was kind of like serendipitous moment of I got a message from the school secretary where I am now, and she's like, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I was like, "Okay." And so with a little bit of research, I found out there's an alternative pathway. So since I already had my master's, all I needed to do was take the content exam, and then I would need additional coursework and then student teaching. And so it ended up being, I passed the test. Still don't know how I did to this day because I felt like it was by the seat of my pants and by luck. Because I was so scared to take it because all I heard were like, oh my gosh, you have to take it so many times before you pass. And so I actually worked my job as a librarian under like a temporary license. I did all the coursework. I did my student teaching just at the elementary school across the street. And it ended up being just kind of everything that worked out. And now I get to annoy admin about books and corrupt children the correct way, in a fun way.
Did you like student teach a whole semester, or did you do so did they take you out of that school?
Yeah, so it ended up being Breezy, the high school librarian, who was kind of like who did the mentor thing for me. We worked it out where I would go once a week for like the morning half. And I got to spend time with another librarian in the district, which ended up being a great thing because I feel like here at Muscuda, we don't spend enough time with each other and they don't really give us PLC time. So kind of like it became a whole thing, and I'm still trying to advocate for us to have a little time at least once a month just to talk. But yeah, did that, and it was fun. The little people are great.
Okay, and then Lauren, how did you get where you are?
Hi, I'm Lauren Oakes, and I am currently the school librarian licensure coordinator for the School of Information Sciences at the University of Illinois. So I now get to help people become school librarians. Before I took this job, which I've been in for just a little over a year, I was a school librarian for 16 years. I started out in undergrad with an English degree with teacher certification. And I knew while I was doing it that being in a school was the right move for me. And I loved reading and books and talking to students about books and doing book discovery things and, literature circles and like all of that kind of stuff. I loved the research aspect of writing and like all of the prep right up to the point where students have to actually write and I have to actually grade their writing. I didn't feel like I was good at like parsing out who was better at this than this person and grading all of that. So I was like, what can I do? I thought I could be an English teacher and be a good one still. But I was like, what else is there? I loved the technology aspect of teaching and learning that stuff and integrating that in the classroom and things like that. But I just knew it wasn't quite the right fit for me. So as I was kind of finishing up and getting ready to student teach in English, my cousin was dating someone who was in the master's program at U of I. And I was like, oh, duh, that makes sense. Like, this is everything I want in a job. It's in a school. I deal with technology. I deal with books. I get to spend money, other people's money to buy books. So like that was like the perfect move for me. So I finished student teaching, got my degree in English with teacher certification. And then I went on to the GISLIS program, what was then the GISLIS program here at U of I. I got my master's degree. And while I was getting my master's, obviously I got the endorsement for my teaching license as well. And then I went straight into the school library when I was finished with my master's degree. And my first job was in a very small district. The whole district was under 1,000 students. It was Warrensburg-Latham. It's outside of Decatur, Illinois. And at first I was just the high school librarian. And then we had another building. We had two buildings. One was a K-8 building, and there was another librarian in that building. And so Warrensburg was weird in that there was two buildings for the district sitting right next to each other. And then we actually passed a referendum to build a new high school that would connect all of the buildings together. But they, for some reason, would not build a new library in the new high school. So my library that was the high school library became the middle school high school library. And where I was used to be surrounded by high school classrooms, I was now surrounded by middle school classrooms. So I did that for a couple of years. And then we had huge budget cuts in Illinois, and we lost some teachers due to that. And so then I was made district librarian there. So I've served students in grades pre-K through 12. But my first love is high school. So a few years later, I went ahead and applied for the job at Mahomet Seymour High School. And that's where I spent my last 8 years before I became the school librarian licensure coordinator here. So I've done a lot of things, been involved in aisle and things like that you've heard a lot about today, I'm sure, and gained a lot of experience that way.
I'm giving Dawn one more second. There she is. I fixed a setting and it looked like she was going to be able to join us. So let's give her 1 second to come back and she can tell us about her. Yay! Hi, Dawn! Yay! Okay. So it's your turn to talk.
Okay, so I've been like half listening to all of you. So you've been going through it. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry for the stress, but go for it.
No, that's okay. So my name is Dawn Brunchen, and I'm the Library Media Director for Belvedere Community Unit School District. So for those of you who don't know, that's very northern Illinois, and about, I don't know, a few miles from Rockford. So if that helps you, we're real close to the state line up here. I started out as an elementary teacher. I was in the classroom probably about 7 years before the library position opened up. And I told my principal at the time I'd be happy to go back and do the certification for what I needed. So I ended up doing that. And I was at one building for, I don't remember. Like, I'm really bad. My years are starting to slip away. Quite a while, though. And then the district hit a rough financial patch, and they decided to cut all the librarians except for one. So I am the only librarian for our district of 10 buildings. I originally started with 11. I now have 10 because one of our schools has since closed. So I have library assistants or paras that run the day-to-day at each of my buildings, except for two of my smaller elementaries. She is between those two buildings. So there's a couple days at a few of them that don't have anybody at that point. And I do more admin. I'm just more of I oversee, I do the orders, I work on databases, I'm in and out of classrooms if they need something. So it's a lot.
It's crazy. Okay, so I'm just gonna throw out some questions and anybody can answer. I just realized I'd keep sliding down in my chair. So what would any of you can answer this one. What would be some advice for somebody who is either a teacher who wants to maybe become certified or a para who is interested in becoming a school librarian? Because this event was created for paras mostly. And I get so many paras that are doing such a bang up job, but they're not getting paid to do it. So what would you suggest to them? What's some advice, I guess?
I don't know that I have any advice beyond go get certified if you can. I mean, it's a very tricky situation that Dawn and I talk about a lot, is that, your district will most definitely love to have you work as a certified librarian for parapay.
Yes.
And it's really hard to come to work and not do the best that you can do. And so they benefit from, your willingness to go the extra mile and to do all of these things, which is really, really wonderful. But we're just in a very tricky situation in this state where they're taking advantage of the fact that there's no law preventing them from doing that.
I agree.
She's
I
exactly right.
I think the hardest part though is that to become a school librarian, you do need to have certification. So in education, and so that that's that extra step that they have to do to get the certification. So, but definitely worth it. I've always loved what I do.
Yeah,
It's the best job in the building. When I was a school librarian, I think it's far and away the best job in the building. So go ahead, Lauren. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh no, that's fine. I agree. It was the best job in the building, and I now love being able to help people become school librarians. And I think that is the thing. If you are doing everything as a para, you're definitely being taken advantage of, because you are doing all those things that a licensed librarian does, but you're not getting the pay for it. So I think sometimes you have to obviously fill out your own district, but you kind of have to force their hand, and you kind of have to let people know what you're doing as well, and go on and get that certification. We have people in our program who are working through our program very slowly, but they're working towards it. There are sometimes, I don't want to make general statements, but there are sometimes ways we can use your experience, maybe to give you practicum hours or things like that to lessen the load a little bit. So I would, if you're interested, find a program, do some research, and reach out. Obviously, I'm happy to talk about our program, but we're not the only option in the state. So definitely make sure you get that certification. And I would say if you're a teacher, you have your teacher license already. It is really important that you get the endorsement, and that, or even the master's, even if you've already been in the library for a long time. I think it's really easy when you're, because we're solo in the buildings most of the time, right? So it's just us. And so sometimes it's difficult to see where your blind spots are. And sometimes coming from the classroom, you don't fully switch over into library brain versus classroom brain. And it is a little bit different. You do think about things differently as a librarian than you do as a classroom teacher. So I would definitely encourage people to look into programs and get licensed if possible.
And that's a good question. We can segue to Eden, because Eden was not a teacher first. So do you find that as like a help or a hindrance?
It's a little bit of both. Just because, and I know you know how it is with the library, is kind of like it's an awesome job, but we're different. And so I think it's fun for me. Probably not fun for the others in the building, because I don't have that education background. So when I come in here to do stuff for the library, it comes from that library perspective. And so it's, for better or for worse, it's kind of like, well, this is what it's best practice. And I think I'd like to think it makes the library better. And it definitely, like, sometimes the kids ask me questions about my background and my education and like the different parts of it. And so I think they're interested, like, why I chose to come into it from this point of view. And I don't know. I think it adds an element of chaos to things. But it's a positive thing. Like, I feel like my space is the chaos zone, because it's not like any other place in the building, because it's not a traditional classroom. It's that little extra spice to the building.
Questions in the chat, and this probably will go to Lauren more, but they were basically, I see, how do you get certified? What are some paths to certification? And then somebody said, could maybe we talk a little bit about going from para to certification and then going from teacher to certification? So
most programs, pretty much all programs for library, are master's level programs. So you do have to start at the bachelor's level, with or without teacher certification. If you have teacher certification as part of one of your other degrees, bachelor's or master's, if you did that differently, you only need 18 credit hours of library coursework in order to apply for your license or for your endorsement on your teacher's license. You also have to have passed the library information specialist content test before you can apply for your license once you have those 18 hours. ISB also requires that you pass them with a C- or better. I know all these rules by heart. If you do not have teacher's certification, there are a couple of programs that you can go through, including ours, that is a school librarian licensure program. So in our program, you are working towards getting your MS-LIS, so your Master's in Library and Information Science, your professional educator license, which is your teacher's license in Illinois, and then you also your library information specialist endorsement. So if you successfully complete all components of the program, then you would have all three of those things and you would be a licensed school librarian in Illinois. And your MS-LIS would also qualify you to work in other types of libraries as well.
Anybody have anything they want to add to that?
As someone who did the master's program through U of I, and before I got into any of the school librarian stuff, I really like the program. There are so many things I learned that, and of course I get an announcement.
You're not the first one today, trust
No.
me.
No, but the program was really helpful and useful, and you learn so many different things. And I still think one of the coolest courses I took was on prison librarianship, because it was really, it made you think more of just beyond like what you think you know about libraries and the different, people that they provide for. So I do advocate for the master's route. That it can be expensive, can be a pain in the butt, but worth it.
This question goes back to something that I've been thinking about in general. In my job, I talk to a lot of people working in libraries, in school libraries, and I sense a lot of hesitance on these school librarians or paraprofessionals on their part to step up and say, like, I am a leader in this field because I am doing the job, and I am not leaving out the paraprofessionals. Even though you're not certified, if you're doing the job every day, you know what is best for your library. But when I am trying to get like input from different librarians, I get, well, should my principal answer that, or should my superintendent answer that? And I'm like, no, I rarely want to talk to the superintendent or the principal. I want to talk to the librarian. So if anybody wants to say anything about being a leader as a librarian in a school, I would love to hear it.
I'm huge on that. You cannot be a shy, introverted librarian and advocate for your program. And you have to be an advocate. Librarians are not always, in my experience, in many districts, are not always just appreciated for the leadership qualities that they can bring in and the variety that their program brings to the school community. So you have to be ready to explain and advocate for those things in your school, because administrators are busy people, and they deal with a lot of large problems on the daily. So you need to put it in front of their face how valuable you are, because if they can move along to the next thing, they will. So you have to fight. I've talked to an administrator today because they were not allowing kids to come in the library during lunch. Why would you not allow kids to come in the library during lunch? I have no idea. Every year I have to have this talk with one of my principals. Every year. So just you cannot be a wallflower in the library.
And advocacy isn't a one-time thing. You have to continue to do it and continue to ask for things. I've been told no before, and I was there 6 months later asking for the same thing, explaining my reasoning, and continuing to make them value my program, show them statistics, show them how many kids have checked out books, show them what lessons you've done, show them, like, they have to see those things in order to value you. And you have to be willing to push past the no's that you're going to get, and the people who just don't ever seem to get it. And eventually you find the people who will, and who will help support you.
I will say that's the hardest part of my job. It really is. I am not a very outspoken person. I really dislike conflict of any sort, and I'm a people pleaser. So advocacy is really challenging for me, and it has definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone many a times. But you're right, it is a constant battle. Um, I think every year I ask for just give me one more person, and I am told no every year, but I keep asking. So, but statistics, I also find they respond to numbers and data. They
Mhm.
want data to back everything up.
And I always overspent my budget a little bit, not by much, but I always overspent it because I didn't want them to see even 5 cents left in my accounts.
I think that's the best piece of advice you gave us during like the class I had with you. And last year I was like, bet. But no, I think not even admin, but I think there's a little inequality when it comes to like how you're treated by the other teachers in the building, especially as someone who wasn't a teacher. I think that has kind of colored my, you know, start here to some degree. Because when you don't know, you don't know. Um, but I think the best part, I let myself get angry professionally about different things, and I know that the pop up in the chat is don't get fired, but I now have the mentality of if I'm going to get fired, it's because I'm going to do my job well and do what's best for the kids and my program. And I think that's why I'm still here. But I just started getting cocky. I've even debated making a miniature version of my degree and putting it on my lanyard to remind myself. But it's just the constant reminders. I push a lot of emails on my circulation statistics so they can see how many books I have been pushing out to kids. I put a whiteboards on my door and I circulate either stats or annoying little tidbits about library usage and expectations or even my lunch schedule. I've just gone full tilt obnoxious, and I think that's the best thing just to lean into with it.
Started my first school librarian job. I made it a point to be seen at the school, and my principal came to me and he goes, you're the most visible librarian I've ever known. And I'm like, he didn't say I was the best, or the smartest, but he did say that he could not avoid seeing me. So I think, that is an important thing. You have to be seen. I want to remind our attendees that if you are interested in becoming certified or taking any steps in your education, our resources page, which I am putting into the chat right now, has links to the U of I program, definitely, but other colleges in Illinois that offer education programs. And I have spoken to all the people in charge of these, and they would welcome your questions. I know Lauren, because I know her personally. She's always there to answer questions for people who are like, I remember when I was getting, I actually went backwards. I got my MLS first, and then I was like, oh, but I want to work in a school and I don't have a teaching certificate. So I went back and got that. And I remember trying to do that. And this was a long time ago. So well before your time, Lauren. And I was talking to different schools and I was like, oh, this is just way too complicated. So I ended up just getting a second master's in teaching. So then I knew I would be done and I didn't have to like pick and choose. So I think it's much easier now to slide in there and get your certification. Are there any other questions that we want to answer before we switch over to our final session of the day? I don't see any. There's a chat. There's a pretty robust chat going on about different things. If you have any questions about taking your library career to the next step, please reach out to either system, or I strongly recommend getting a mentor like one of these ladies here who can answer some of your questions and maybe guide you along that path. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today and sharing your path to what you're doing and showing there's many different ways to be a school librarian in Illinois. And no matter what stage of the journey, that everyone here today is at, you are providing an important service to our kids. And I thank you all for what you are doing. Okay. Any questions? I don't see anything. Okay, what I'm going to do is stop recording this session, and then we're going to start our last session. And I'll start recording that separately.